You're going to showboat, knock down the shot.
For what his value is, it doesn't equate to winning basketball.
When you're talking about the greatest of greats, that's what you have to do. You have to nitpick.
We'll see you in the playoffs. We'll see you in the playoffs.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Tee 'em Up podcast. I am Jace Eustace, joined, as always, by Jarrett Huff. Jarrett, we're down to 4 series in the playoffs, 8 possible teams that are going to be our NBA champion for this year. So how are you feeling, man? I think we have a break here tonight, but we pretty much had playoff basketball every single night for the last, 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah. This is the first night we won't have it as we're recording on Thursday. So I'll be able to catch up on all the stuff in my personal life I haven't been able to get done because
everything's been putting on hold.
So much basketball every night. Literally, I feel like I'm in a rhythm where go to work, get home, go to the gym, and then basketball the rest of the night. Maybe I get some cooking in, and then I'm off to bed. Like there's no breaks in between. It's crazy, but I love it.
Great games. They've been great games too.
Oh, it's been great.
We're gonna break down all 4 of the series that we have going on, and I think there's no better place to start, in my opinion. Let's just start in the Eastern Conference. That's what we've been doing. So we've been rolling with. Let's start with the number 1 seed. Obviously, my Miami Heat against the Philadelphia 76ers. So last night, Miami came out and took I don't want to say commanding 2-0 lead, but they did their job. They defended a home court, won both games down in South Beach. So, Jarrett, what have you learned more, I guess I should say, about this Miami team? And are you worried about Philadelphia at this point?
I'm not too concerned about Philadelphia's chances in the series. I mean, Miami just came out, and as they've gone into every series, I've kind of always wanted to see okay, just how good is this team? Because really, we haven't seen this team at full strength for a sustained period of time, and they're still not at full strength. I mean, Kyle Lowry's been on the sidelines since the last round.
Oh yeah.
But this team is so well coached. The lineups are fantastic. The rotations, because Eric Spoelstra figures out every player he's playing has a purpose and is plugged into the system perfectly to play a role that helps this team. They've kept Philly at arm's length this entire series. It feels like Philly never really has a chance, even when they go on a run and maybe Korkmaz is hitting threes when he's playing or Harden's getting to the basket. They still can't build up enough momentum to get themselves back in the game, it feels like. Because then Miami just somebody hits a 3, or Tyler Hero hits a 3, Bam Adebayo gets a 3-point play inside, something. Miami is keeping them at arm's length, and it's kind of showing signs that James Harden, I think we've seen the last of superstar 60-point game James Harden. I think that player is gone. And this series has really outlined that to me, because this was the series, or at least this point in the series, without Joel Embiid playing right now. This is the time for him to take over, and I don't think he can do it.
No, I agree with you 100%. And this was the prove it. They knew at least probably 2 games without Embiid. We'll see if he's back for game 3. You never know with the concussion. Hopefully he's feeling better, because obviously I want my Miami Heat, if they're going to take down the 76ers, I want them to do it at full strength. I want to take down Joel Embiid. Never rooting for anybody to get injured. But this was James Harden's time, and he really didn't seem there was almost, I want to say, maybe 5 or 6 minute spurts during those 2 games where he looked aggressive, and he was getting to his spots. He was knocking down shots. He was drawing fouls. He kind of looked like the old James Harden, but I agree with you. It doesn't look like he can do that for 40 minutes in a playoff game. He can do that for about 12 minutes. And then for the rest of the game, he's inefficient on defense. They're attacking him in the pick and roll, and he just looks lost out there a lot of the times. Tyrese Maxey, to me, has been their best player so far. And shout out to Tobias Harris. Looks fantastic. I don't know what he's figured out against the Miami Heat's defense, but even in the regular season, Tobias Harris had some of his best games against Miami. So I think they need to lean on him a little bit more. Joel Embiid's going to be out. Look at Tobias as being your number 2 option as far as scoring options, telling James Harden, hey, you're our point guard. You're our assist guy. You're not going to be able to take, 20 shots a game. We're going to bring you back down to 11, 12 shots a game, especially if you're not going to be hitting them. But for me, I said this 2 weeks ago on our podcast, and I'm sticking by it. Miami is the team to beat in the East. No one, I don't want to say no one, but there's a lot of people in the media that have been kind of, Miami's the 1 seed, but they've kind of looked at them like how Utah was the 1 seed for a few years there, where it's like, oh yeah, they're the 1 seed. They'll probably get to the second round, and then, they're Utah. That's what they'll do. But Miami's history in the playoffs is they're not an easy out. I mean, last year, yes, they got knocked out. I can't even remember who it was. A Milwaukee who came back and busted them in 5 games. It was something like that.
Was it even 5 games?
It might have been a sweep. I don't even know. To be honest, I've completely blacked out last season. But, in the bubble season, obviously we know that they made the NBA Finals. They lost to the Lakers. They had to beat the Boston Celtics to get there. They had to beat not the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks in order to get there. And they did that. But to me, it's just these 2 games have been business as usual for Miami. Like it doesn't look like they're like second round of the playoff games is from their attitude. Like they look like it's like, hey, this is the opponent we have on our court tonight. This is what we're going to do to take them apart. You know what they have not had a single player that has really popped off. I mean, a lot of people are going to say Tyler Herro's had a great 2 games. This is what Tyler Herro's been doing all year. He hasn't been, above his bar of play. He's been normal. He's been 6th man of the year, and he's been fantastic doing it. Obviously, he got his award for that. PJ Tucker, he's been all up on Harden. Herro's doing his thing, and they're still not at full strength. We're missing our point guard, and we're able to do this, filling it in with, Caleb Martin, who I love Caleb Martin. Gabe Vincent, I love Gabe Vincent, but they're bench players, and they've been able to fill in that point guard role and do it effective enough that, hey, we're still getting wins against a very talented team. So I look at this as, man, Miami's up 2-0. They deserve to be up 2-0. And I made a TikTok about this earlier. I still think even with Embiid out there, you could easily make an argument Miami's still up 2-0 if Joel Embiid is out there.
I mean, that's very possible. And I think a big part of the reason why the mass sports media doesn't have Miami in as high regard as maybe like the Bucks or the Celtics have been talked about these past couple weeks is Miami, as great as Jimmy Butler is, and trust me, I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan. Been there since like day one, but he's not necessarily like a superstar.
He's a star. He's a star.
But he's a star. Yeah. He's they're like the only team left in the East that doesn't have that prototypical superstar that can carry a series.
I agree.
Like on a consistent basis. They don't have a Jason Tatum. They don't have a Giannis Antetokounmpo. They don't have a Joel Embiid or the idea of what James Harden once was.
I agree.
And there's also questions about the health. Like that's been Miami's biggest storyline this whole season, which has also showed the team's greatest strength, which is their depth. But how many games are we going to get of Kyle Lowry? Is Jimmy Butler going to be healthy throughout this whole series or the whole playoffs, which he already has missed a game? Is Victor Oladipo going to hold up and be able to play a significant role? Who I have to say he has been a bright spot, especially in this series. He was hitting some big shots.
Him and Tyler Herro are so far in the playoffs. I mean, they're only 7 games in, but they are a great 1-2 punch off the bench. And I love Victor Oladipo. And I always thought when they brought him back, it was kind of this underrated. They're like, yeah, well, he hasn't played in 2 seasons. I'm like, yeah, but they can afford to have him not play. And I never said it in our podcast, but I wish I would have brought it up, where I saw something like this happening. The last 10 games of the season, you start to get him some minutes in that rotation. And in the playoffs, dude was an all-star. Like he's capable of going out there and knocking down shots in high pressure situations. So I agree with you 100% on Vic Oladipo. It's been amazing to see, but oh man, this Miami team, I'm just so happy to be a fan of them. And I think, like you said, the mainstream media, I think another reason why they kind of overlook them is because they're trying to win in a different way. Like they're almost, I mean, I can argue Phoenix is kind of like this too, but I mean, Devin Booker's every game looks like he's getting more and more unstoppable and getting closer to that superstar level. But Phoenix and Miami are the 2 like real teams. The way that I look at them is like they play, I mean, Miami some nights playing 12 deep off the bench, like, and all of them are getting solid minutes. They're constantly rotating in and out. Like you said, they all serve a purpose out there on the court. And Tyler Herro winning 6th man of the year, it was obviously he won it from the beginning to the end. There was no one coming off the bench that was better than him this season. And just another thing, I don't know if you probably didn't see, but I posted a TikTok today that was basically posting about, how a lot of the media is saying that I don't want to say they're discrediting Miami for their 2-0 lead, but they're kind of that caveat in there. And they say, well, if Joel Embiid was out there, and someone commented on that and said that Miami, I've watched every game and Miami's bench sucks. And I made a comment and I said, I have heard a lot of stupid takes in my life, but to say Miami's bench sucks, What bench is good to you then? Like, what team has a good bench? Because I think they had the best bench remaining in the NBA playoffs. I think they had the best bench in the entire NBA as of this season.
That's a Skip Bayless level, just dumb take.
It was bad. It was so bad. I've watched every game and their bench sucks. What are you watching? I said they literally have the sixth man of the year. Like, Dwayne Dedman has turned into a fantastic backup center. You got Caleb Martin, you got Gabe Vincent, now you got Vic Oladipo. Like, it sucks. What game are you watching?
He must be watching a 2020 bubble game or something.
What game are you watching? This team is deep. This team is deep. And another thing I saw, I don't know if you saw the videos though did you see the video of Tyrese Maxey and James Harden on the bench? Where it looks like Tyrese Maxey's already sick of James Harden, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Harden goes to sit next to him and he gets up and moves over to the other seat.
It's like petty as hell.
Oh my God. It's like, and they're if anybody was asked about it, they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was just, I'm next up in the rotation. I was moving down. But no, man, this was intentional. And I think Tyrese Maxey, man, and that brings me to a question I had. Is Harden a max player? Like, are you paying James Harden 2022 going into 2023 James Harden? Are you paying him the max if you're Philadelphia?
You have to.
You have to. Okay.
You have to pay James Harden the max because what do you tell your fan base if you let him walk? Or if you undercut him and he's insulted?
What do you tell your fan base in 2 years when he is averaging 11 points a game and 7 assists?
Oh, you worry about that later. I'm saying in the short term, you let Ben Simmons go. You let Seth Curry go, who would be so immensely useful in this series. And you let Andre Drummond, who is a very good backup to Joel Embiid, who could really use right now because, sorry, Doc, starting DeAndre Jordan, not really cutting it.
Yeah, it's awful.
Or let's actually, starting, I'm talking about playing because let's be honest, DeAndre Jordan is a corpse out there. This will be most likely his last season.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Unless somehow Kyrie and KD hold the Nets hostage to be like, we need DeAndre Jordan.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Again. But it's bad, but it's a lose-lose situation because technically it's a short-term win because you keep the asset that you paid a lot for, but then you risk your team chemistry down the line, or maybe already. Maybe it's already pretty
damaged.
That's
what I'm saying.
And you risk the fan base just losing support for anything the front office is doing. It's because otherwise, then you just let James Harden walk. And to his credit, James Harden still has skills that can be useful to a team, but at the same time, he's a declining asset, apparently rapidly, and he just seems to be a headache for his teammates.
Man, at this point, I would not bash the 76ers for letting him walk. And I know that sounds crazy. It sounds awful because of what they gave up. Obviously, I don't picture them giving up Ben Simmons as really an asset because I don't think Ben Simmons was ever really going to play another game for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah,
so in my mind,
now.
Yeah, in my mind, you got rid of someone who didn't want to play for someone who wanted to play, at least, says he does. You can talk about the amount of effort he's actually putting out there on the court.
He's on a basketball court though, so that's
is on the
more than the Nets can say.
That's a step up. But in my mind, if I'm a Philadelphia 76er fan, and I'm looking there like, okay, we could tie up all this money in James Harden, or we could let him walk, go forward with Joel Embiid, go forward with Tyrese Maxey, young up-and-coming player, and you got all this money in cap room that you could go get someone else, go spread that among two guys that are just medium-level talents or, above-average level talents in the NBA. That might be the better option is the way I'm looking at it because I don't know. I don't want that money tied up in James Harden when he's trending this way, when I could go and I don't even know who the free agents are going to be. I don't think there's a lot besides James Harden and Kyrie Irving. And, I don't want that money tied up in Kyrie Irving either, but that's a story for another day. But I don't know, man. I don't think there's any win situation here. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it would take a lot for Morey to walk away because obviously Harden is Morey's guy. He kind of found him obviously in Houston, turned him into an MVP or helped put him in a situation that turned him into an MVP. But man, it's looking worse and worse by the day. This is crazy, man. But enough about the best team in the Eastern Conference in Miami. Let's move on to the other series going on in the Eastern Conference, and that is the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. So this one, when we gave our predictions, I believe you had Celtics in 7. I believe
that's correct.
I had the Bucks in 7. So we both obviously feel this is going to come down to the wire. And so far, we both be right because this series is tied 1-1. So what have you learned about these teams so far in this 2-game series we've seen?
Well, one thing I've learned is that, yes, the Celtics will be able to play defense against Giannis. I mean, we saw what he missed. I don't have the numbers on hand, but I think it was like 16 shots the other night.
Yeah, he's 1 for 10 in the first quarter. I know that.
Yeah,
or first half.
Yeah, it was not a great game for Giannis. It was honestly probably one of his worst games in a while. Because that Boston Celtics defense, even without Marcus Smart, is still a very good defense. They can put a wall up, make it difficult for Giannis, force him to maybe shoot outside a little bit more, and it's working. Jason Tatum didn't even have that great of a game. Of course, Jaylen Brown came in and had a fantastic first half. I think it was 25 points, ended with 30. Because then Jason Tatum came in and kind of helped carry the Celtics the rest of the way after a slow start. This is the second best series we have in this round. It's competitive. I would like to see hopefully closer games because let's be honest, Milwaukee was getting their asses handed to them most of the night. But I think it's going to be competitive, even without Chris Middleton. And I'm feeling pretty confident in my take because there's like some stat, or at least in the first round, where if like the team that wins game 2 is more likely to go on and win the finals. And what can I say? The Celtics won game 2. So we're feeling pretty good with our Celtics 7 take.
Those stats can be very misleading because I'd like to see, the stats, Milwaukee looks at it. They did their job. They got the split away. That's what they're looking for. That's true. How they're going to look at this series. They stole home court from the second seed, from the higher seed. And the NBA media, they just love to overreact. And they did that after game 1. I mean, after game 1, oh my God, they were talking about, Giannis had a bad game, but this Bucks team is it's amazing. And the Celtics, it was heightened because the Brooklyn Nets were so bad. So they were coming in, they were overrated. And same thing after game 2. Now we're sitting here where we're talking about they've slowed down Giannis. Giannis can't figure him out. Like you said, they built a wall. We're overreacting. These are 2 very great teams who are going to be in a battle. And the way that I look at it, the Bucks, I said they're going to win this series, and I still think they will. But it's going to be a series. It's not going to be – no team's going to be out in 5. No, I don't even think no team's going to be out in 6. Giannis has been uncharacteristically inefficient, and I don't think that'll continue. Tatum and Brown had really bad games in game 1. I don't think they'll both have a bad game again, not on the same night. Milwaukee did their job. They got the split on the road. They took home court. Now they got to come out and kind of weather that first punch that the Celtics give them because Celtics, they like to start fast. They like to come out and try to get that, 12-3 lead right off the bat. And I think if Milwaukee can kind of weather that, slow the pace in the beginning of the game, and then generally just wear them down throughout the game, Giannis is still the most unstoppable force in the NBA. He is more dominating than pretty much anybody. And I think him leaning on those guys down low, him continuing to make it hell for him down low throughout the game, it wears on him where they get towards the fourth quarter, he starts to find the space down low. But I think in the beginning of the game, and I think he's been doing this a little bit, he's been passing up shots and becoming more of a distributor. And I think it works because Milwaukee does have a lot of three-point shooters out there in the perimeter. I think Brook Lopez has had a pretty good series as far as his rebounding numbers are going. But this series is fun, man. I just think we need to, as NBA fans, to look past the overreactions when it comes to 2 great teams going at each other. Obviously, only one team is going to win in the end. But after each and every single game, this is what they're going to do. So if the next game Milwaukee comes out and gets a 15-point win at home, we're going to go ahead and talk about Giannis is unstoppable. This series is over. Same thing with Boston. If Giannis comes out and he shoots 8 for 24 or something like that, he doesn't have a good night and he's passing the ball around, they're still trying to figure things out and they lose by 5, we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics are the best defense to ever play in the NBA. This is what we do. And I just think enjoy the ride a little bit. We can make predictions, we can make breakdowns, But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and it's just getting started. And I think Milwaukee's going to feel some things out that they learned in game 2. Obviously, game 2 got on hand really fast. I think they'll learn from that and they'll bounce back. And now they got 2 games at home in Milwaukee.
Yeah, a big thing that I think will come back around is we need to see better games from Milwaukee's role players, especially if Giannis is having a shaky start to a game. Grayson Allen was, I think, at one like late in the game, he only taken 3 shots. He had like 2 points. He was not having a good game. Whereas we saw during the Chicago Bulls series, he was arguably the best or second best player out on the floor, maybe third, because of, let's be honest, Drew Holiday's defense locking up DeRozan. And Levine, when Levine was playing, like let's not ignore that. Drew Holiday is arguably the best defender in the NBA.
For real.
But definitely Milwaukee's going to need to see more from its role players to help kind of carry the load offensively without Chris Middleton being there. But I think they will, because they got a really, again, another one of these deep teams in the East with a deep bench with a lot of great role guys like Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen. Gross to say. Yeah, I think my mouth is dry. But yeah, I just can't wait for the rest of the series. It's my second favorite series so far.
It's going to be fun, and those are obviously the 4 teams we still have a ride in the Eastern Conference. So let's move on over to the West. Start at the 1 seed over there, and that's the Suns versus the Dallas Mavericks. And I put out my predictions on TikTok, if anybody saw them. I believe, if I remember correctly, I had the Mavericks taking this series in 6 games. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Or no, maybe it was 7. It might have been 7.
Well, you said Mavericks in 6?
I said Mavericks. I had Mavericks taking this series. I made my official predictions. I put it up right before the first game of the second round started for any of them, put them all out there. And, I'm sticking by them. This series hasn't gone great so far. Obviously, they were looking for a split in Phoenix, and for half of game 2, it looked like that might happen. They were holding everything. I think they were even leading at halftime of game 2. They were by like 2 points or something like that.
It was getting hairy. In that third quarter for Phoenix.
Yeah, game 2. I mean, the story was Chris Paul took over down the stretch. He closed that game out. He went on an absolute run where he was doing it offensively and defensively. And I know it didn't make a difference, but that offensive foul on Jalen Brunson was not an offensive foul. That was just Chris Paul riding with the momentum. And as you can see when he's walking away, he's like, "Ooh, I got that one." And he goes over and like pats the referee on the back, like, "Yeah, good call." Yeah, they were going to win the game regardless. That didn't make a difference, but that was just a momentum play. But for the Mavs, this to me, this isn't about Luka. You know what he's going to give you. And when the Suns, to beat the Suns, you have to limit their second chance points. And when you share the ball, it looks better. Like it looks so much better on the offensive end for the Mavs. When they basically don't play a center, they have both their big men on most times when they're on the court out on the perimeter. Like we're talking like Dwight Powell and Dorian Smith. I can't even get his name right. And who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Oh, Maxi Kleba. Those guys who are just out there, they play a lot on the perimeter. Yeah, they're bigger bodies, but they're not the typical, banging down low, which does kind of hurt them on the defensive end, obviously going up against DeAndre Ayton. But I don't think this series is over. I think the Suns did exactly what they wanted to do, defend home court. Now the series is going to shift to Dallas. Obviously, Dallas needs to get both of these and defend at home. And I think we'll learn very quickly in kind of the first half of game 3 if this series is going to be over. Like if someone called me up halfway through like the second quarter of game 3, I could tell you, yeah, this series is over or not. I think Dallas has to come out with a sense of urgency. They got to come out, give them their best punch, knock down shots. And I think Luka has to improve on the defensive end. He is just being picked apart in the pick and roll, and Phoenix knows it. But it's not looking great now. But with Luka on the court, they have a nuclear option. It just hasn't gone off yet. And we'll see. And Luka's played well, but we'll see if he can do it. We'll see what happens. But right now, Phoenix is really trending in the right direction.
On my side of things, this series is exactly why I think it's going to be the Suns in 5. And I feel pretty good about my prediction. We see Phoenix comes out guns blazing every first quarter so far. I mean, I think the other night they were up 9-0 to
Yeah.
start.
I remember seeing like a 17-5 or something like that to start
yeah,
off.
even in game one, they were up big really early. And then, of
Mhm.
course, like the Mavericks hit a couple shots, kind of like in game two. Maxi Kleba from that corner, like that,
Yeah.
and that's going to be a huge thing for the Mavericks. I don't think they're going to get Maxi Kleba going 5 for 6 to start from three every game in this series. I definitely don't think that's going to happen again. And that's what kept the Mavericks like in that and didn't let Phoenix run away in the first half, which eventually got them back in the game. But the same thing that's going on right now, where it's Luka, he's putting up historic playoff numbers. I believe currently he's the has the most points per game in NBA playoff history. Currently, he surpassed Michael Jordan for now. That can't be sustained. I mean, although so far in his young career, he's proved that that's what he could do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to win you a series against the top seed in the East or in the West. Jason Kidd said it best. Like Luka can get his 30, but the other guys have to step up. The other guys have to play better. We haven't seen much from Jalen Brunson this series. No. He's gotten foul trouble early in game one. Spencer Dinwiddie has not been himself through these games so far. And this is why I wasn't high on the Mavericks coming into the playoffs. This is why originally, and I'm embarrassed to like say this again, but this is why I had Utah winning the series. I believe in 6, 5. No, I think
5.
I had them in 5.
You had them in 5.
It's because they need Herculean efforts every single night from Luka Doncic. And that's a lot to put on a player in the second round because and I just don't think Dallas has the guys. And like their 3 best players are all point guards. Like they don't have a lot of talent depth at any of the other positions that can carry them through games. So I also have to say DeAndre Ayton's been awesome. He's been hitting so many shots in the post. His footwork's been amazing. His mid-range game has been on fire. It feels like every time he goes up, just like Chris Paul, he's not going to miss. Honestly, I love watching like an old school NBA center just go to work. It's one of my favorite things to watch. And can we talk about Chris Paul for a second? He's become like the opposite side of the, oh my God, Jason Tatum's only 19 conversation, where it's like, holy crap, 30, Chris Paul's 36 going on 37.
Yeah. No, he's been like, fantastic.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a pleasure. I love because Chris Paul's like still my like from when we were kids growing up. He's still from that generation for me. So I'm like, I love that I could still watch somebody from that generation go out and play as if he's like still 26, 27. It's awesome. So I'm just happy for Chris Paul. And because my Chicago Bulls are out, I want to see C3P win a ring. So it's just been a pleasure. And I'm rooting for CP3 and the Suns for the rest of the way. So it's just, even when it's not as competitive as a series, in my opinion, still love watching it.
Oh, I agree with you. And I agree that the Mavs need a second star, and we'll see where the rest of this series goes. But so far, not looking too good on my side, which would be kind of the biggest miss I've had so far in the playoffs. I've been pretty accurate, all things considered. I had 7 of the 8 first rounds correctly, and Toronto tried to make it 8 out of 8. They came back and made that a series towards the end.
I wasn't worried about that.
Yeah, I know you weren't, but I'm sure the 76ers were a little bit after dropping game 5. They're a little like, oh, wait a minute. Thought we could put these guys out. But let's move on here to our final series we got to talk about, and that's the Grizzlies and the Warriors. So this series is tied at 1-1, and I will say after the Timberwolves series, I didn't give the Grizzlies too much credit going into this one. I thought the Warriors would really be the team that would just kind of not walk all over Memphis, but I think Memphis showed so much of their immaturity. I didn't really take them too seriously going into this series. And so far, they've kind of proved me wrong, and they've kind of shown that Memphis is never really truly out of it. Ja was absolutely tremendous in game 2. Warriors looked a little out of sorts. They didn't know how to really stop Ja, especially on that first step. He was getting by everybody, getting into the paint. And I didn't expect Memphis to come out swinging in game 2, literally, like if you ask Dylan Brooks, come out swinging like they did. But apparently, the Warriors are going to like look at this with silver lining. They're missing Gary Payton, obviously, with the play that happened there. But they grabbed one in Memphis, and I know a lot of people looked at them as kind of the favorites in this series, but the way that they came in as technically the underdogs as far as the seeding goes, they got one in Memphis. They're going back to Golden State to try to defend the Bay. I think the Warriors are still the better team, but I think it's seriously time to start questioning right now. And you might have an opinion on this, but is John Morant the best player in this series right now as we sit? Is he?
Stop. No.
Is he?
No.
Oh, no. I disagree.
Steph Curry is still the best player in the series. Come on,
John Morant has scored more points in game 1 and game 2 combined than Steph Curry and Klay Thompson in both those games combined. Well,
yeah, Ja's a high usage player. I mean, that's gonna happen. No, Steph has better players around him. He doesn't need to be used as much. He's still kind of like, I mean, he's about worked his way back into playing shape, but no, Steph Curry is still the best player in this series, without a doubt. It's just that there's more weapons around him to where the load's kind of taken away, because you could go to Jordan Poole, you could go to Klay Thompson even at times for stretches. Andrew Wiggins is there for cuts to the basket and stuff like that. Like, the Warriors have so many more weapons than the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are still a great team. Don't get me wrong. They have some pretty good guys beyond John Morant, but the Warriors, like, they're basically the U.S. Army with all the artillery they have. They have so many different things that they can hit you with. And I gotta say, like, shout out to Gary Payton the second for what he's been able to do to revitalize his NBA career that almost essentially didn't really even exist, because he's been in and out of the G League the last 6 years. It sucks to see his season end this way on such a cheap play by Dylan Brooks.
No.
Who I'm starting to see a lot of these young guys like develop personalities. Dylan Brooks is probably going to be like one of those types that's just going to kind of be not really given the benefit of the doubt when it comes to situations like these, where maybe hits a player, stuff like that. Just from everything I've seen at points this season, and especially in these playoffs, I think he's kind of earning a reputation for himself, for better or for worse. Right now, not looking so good, as he is suspended for game 3, which is going to hurt the Grizzlies. But I mean, they managed without him the other night, so who knows? But this has been my favorite series to watch, because it's going to be gritty, it's going to be nasty. And the best way I can kind of compare this series is, you look at it, it's like, this is the young upstart team. They finally got some pieces together. They have their young star that's destined to be a superstar, if not already. I think this playoff series alone will probably make John Morant a superstar, or at least put him into that conversation. Unless some people might already say that he's there already, because he was like in the MVP talks and stuff like that. But you look at the Warriors, you could kind of argue they're the Detroit Pistons, Boston Celtics. I would say that's the best comparison, because this is a team, they're a little more injured, but they still got Larry Bird, Kevin McHale's still there. They won championships a few years ago. They won 3, three? Yeah, 3. Just like the Celtics did. And here comes a grittier, tougher, like, more gonna kind of like hang their hats on their grit and grind play in the Memphis Grizzlies, kind of like that early Detroit Pistons team that's trying to get over the Boston Celtics hump. And I think we're seeing the series right now is kind of playing that way, because let's be honest, the Grizzlies, they have a real shot to win this series. As good as the Warriors. Some might even say they're the favorites for this series. I personally still think the Warriors are going to probably pull this one off in 6, just because I believe in their experience more and that death lineup. But this series is kind of has those undertones of like could be a potential pass the torch series, or something we can watch from years from now, where these two teams might consistently just meet up in the playoffs. And I love it. I'm here for it.
No, definitely. You said this has been your favorite series to watch. And like John Morant said to Steph Curry after game 2, he's like, now we're going to have some fun. You know, we're tied 1-1. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I agree with you. It's kind of like that old guard and the new guard kind of going head to head. Obviously, the old guard is still very talented. Steph Curry's had a great season. They got that young infusion with Jordan Poole, it's not a fluke anymore. Jordan Poole is a legitimate bucket. He's a legitimate threat in this league. It's not a fluke at this point. So I think it's definitely an interesting series. It could go either way. I think I originally said I had the Warriors taking this one in 6, but I don't know, man. This could go pretty much in any direction. I'm sitting here tied 1-1. We got 2 1-1 series and 2 2-0 series, and we'll see who's getting to the conference finals on each side. But so now it's time to move on to our favorite part of the Tee 'em Up podcast, and that is, of course, Tee 'em Up. So, Jarrett, who gets your technical foul this time around?
Well, this one comes from a little bit outside the NBA. We already brought him up in this podcast, but I got to tee up Skip Bayless. I mean, there are so many things on any given day of the week I could tee up Skip Bayless about. For starters, for those that argue the Jordan side of the conversation, he makes all of us look so dumb because he tries to shit on LeBron for every, like, literally, I'll be on Twitter any given night, like the other night, something about like LeBron not being, like, dude, he's out of the playoffs. We get it. Like, just leave him alone.
I can tell you exactly what he said because I made a TikTok about it. I went into detail. He went on TV a couple days ago and did a whole segment about how LeBron is the most uncriticized and coddled superstar he's ever seen in his life.
If anything, he's arguably the most criticized superstar ever, and he's 50% of the reason why he is. I mean, you're talking about how somebody's so uncriticized, yet he's the main segment for your show, and you're criticizing him when you consistently criticize him. I'm on the other side of the conversation, but there are times where I'm like, all right, no, shut up. LeBron's doing this. And it's so funny. Like, we've been talking about this for what, a minute and a half? And this is not even why I'm teeing him up yet.
Yeah, no.
But because there's so much with this guy.
Oh, yeah. Why are you teeing him up?
Why I'm teeing him up is him and Shannon Sharp on their show Undisputed. We're talking about the Dylan Brooks incident with Gary Payton. And Skip's like, oh, he brushed him. And literally as he's like shouting, and I'm not like jokingly saying he's shouting or like exaggerating, he is shouting. I mean, Skip Shannon, that's really 90% of the show. But he's shouting, saying he brushed him, as you literally see Brooks' arm come across Payton's head and Payton's whole head just get moved. I'm like, that's a brush? Like, damn, your poor teeth, if you consider that a brush. And he's like, oh, and then I hope he's not out for the season because you don't want to hear it. And Skip's like, he broke his elbow, or Shannon's like, he broke his elbow. Skip's like, no, they didn't have the MRI yet. You have to have the MRI. And he's like, and Shannon's like, Steve Kerr said he broke his elbow. Like, you idiot. Steve Kerr, his head coach, said he broke his elbow. And Skip's like, how's that possible? How would you know? He's the freaking head coach. He was there. So and then he's like pissed now that Dylan Brooks has been like suspended for a game. He tweeted before his show, Dylan Brooks gets suspended for a game, I will be sick. Well, dude, you must be sick with some of the takes you have. I'm teeing up Skip Bayless. This man frustrates me. Oh my God.
So for the first time in the TMO podcast, I'm gonna do something different. I had something else written down, but screw that. I am teaming up Skip Bayless as well, just because you brought it up, and for more reasons, because I would like another couple more minutes to talk about it, and that's the main reason. And mine wasn't that great anyway, so we're gonna go on a limb. I put a whole. Normally, on TikTok, and a lot of you guys, if you're listening, you probably follow us on TikTok or found us on TikTok, and we appreciate you. Yeah, fantastic. We appreciate that. So you might have seen this, and we like to keep a lot of our content on there, a minute less, keep it short, keep it sweet. This time I couldn't. I made a whole 3-minute TikTok. I did my research. I went back. I did everything. When I heard that claim that LeBron is coddled and under criticized, I wanted, and I completely agree with you where you said this is not about Jordan and LeBron. This is not at all. This is no part of this discussion. But when I heard you say that, that's the first thing that popped in my head was he makes that other side look bad because a lot of people are going to say that's what Jordan lovers do. This has nothing to do with Michael Jordan. LeBron has been criticized for every shot he takes on a random Tuesday night in November for 19 years in the league. He literally could have a game where he goes, this is what he does, 25, 7, and 7. That's his career average, even though weirdly enough, he's never had a game where he had exactly 25, 7, and 7.
Fun stat.
LeBron goes out there, does his thing. Literally, his team could lose by 4, something like that on a random game, not even halfway through the season. They are front page of every single sports show, every ESPN, Fox Sports, every podcast. They are everywhere about LeBron being criticized. Like that's what he's known for. And I'm so glad that you can admit that this is bull, because literally we criticize everything. And I went through Skip Bayless's tweets when he talks about LeBron. He criticized LeBron for literally, I went back and said the numbers. He had like 37 points in a game, hit a game-winning shot, and he said, well, that would have been a good shot if it wasn't luck. Okay, that's fine. That wasn't good enough. Okay, when he hit the game winner against Toronto back in 2016 in the playoffs.
Popped up on my feed today.
LeBronto. Oh, well, you know what? That wasn't a really good shot. Okay, that's fine. But when he doesn't want to drive and actually kicks it out to a guy in an open three, if the guy makes the shot, it's LeBron. Oh, he doesn't want to shoot free throws. He's scared of that. He's the worst shooting, free throw. What does he always say? The worst shooting free throw
superstar
in the history of the league.
Yeah,
blah,
something
blah,
like
blah,
that.
Blah.
Shaq.
So he'll kick it out to him. If the guy misses the shot, then it's, he doesn't have that killer instinct. If the guy makes the shot, it's, LeBron was saved again. He literally, Skip criticized him for last year in the NBA playoffs, sitting courtside to watch his buddy Chris Paul's NBA Finals game, was criticized for just enjoying a basketball game for his friend first trip to the NBA Finals. He was tweeted 10 times about going to see the new Space Jam movie. He is criticized for everything he's ever done in his entire career. Every time we talk about him, we talk about the decision and we talk about the 2011 NBA Finals. Hey, that was 11 years ago. We still bring it up because he gets criticized over everything he's ever done.
Don't say that was 11 years ago. It's still 2015 somewhere.
I am just so happy to see that there are people out there that might not err on the same side as me when it comes to a LeBron Jordan debate that can honestly say, yeah, you know what? He's pretty, he's criticized a good amount. I think that's fine. And are you kidding me? And his favorite NBA superstars that he has right now, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, they are coddled. We don't expect anything from them. KD just got swept out.
I don't know if Kevin Durant's so coddled anymore.
If LeBron got swept out, it would still be on, and it would be on every show. First things all the way through.
Oh yeah,
the Fox Sports lineup, all the way through the ESPN lineup. They'd still be talking about LeBron. We're not talking about KD anymore because they're gone and they're out of it. Same thing with Kawhi. Hasn't played in 2 years, but I'm just talking about Skip is just a straight up. Oh my God, he contradicts himself. It's awful. But he gets my technical foul too. And mine originally was going to go to Kyrie. So you should know how bad that I hate.
I think I already know what the Kyrie one was too.
Doesn't matter.
Man.
I agree with you 100%.
Oh.
Technical foul, Skip Bayless. And I know this is what he does. This is where he gets his money. He's controversial. But you know what? I'm sorry.
It's bad journalism.
It's bad. He's not a journalist in my mind. Because what he reports is not truth. It's not even half.
Does he report anything?
No, he's not.
I don't think anyone goes to him and be like, "Hey, can you please break this story?"
No, he's not a journalist. He's a comment. He provides commentary. And you know what? Great for him. He's made a living. He's made a career out of it. But he's terrible, absolutely terrible. And you could show him this clip. I don't even care. He's terrible.
Hey,
terrible.
I think you should call this pod "Team Up." Guys go in on Skip Bayless.
Literally,
and just put that as the title, and then also talks about the second round of the NBA playoffs.
Oh my God, I should Skip Bayless. He just, oh my God. I love Shannon Sharp too. Can't watch the show.
Oh,
I can't do it. Can't watch the show.
I'm not a big Shannon Sharp guy either. But like there are times where I'm like, okay, Shannon Sharp's the only one making sense here, and that's a problem because the man usually puts a goat on his head with a cigar in his mouth as a bottle of like Hennessy right next to him.
It's cognac.
Or cognac, whatever it is.
But no, literally, Shannon Sharp is a saint for having to sit there every single morning and listen to hours of toxic spew come out of Skip Bayless's mouth. I give him all the credit in the world for that because I couldn't do it. I could not sit there and stay on television and sit across from him and listen to things like that. So
I would be a JJ Redick on TV. Shamelessly. That would be my goal. Shout out to JJ Redick, by the way. Did you see
he's doing great
in on what's that guy's name? Chris Russo?
Yeah.
Just posterize that man.
Yeah, Mad Dog.
One of the best tweets I've seen is JJ Redick waited till he retired to start dunking on people. I'm like,
for real, JJ is killing it. He's going to be
shout out to you, JJ.
He's going to be on. Yeah, he's killing it. I agree. Well, man, that's all the skip slander we have for this week on the TM Up podcast.
Probably won't be the last.
Probably won't be the last, but that's all we have for this week. We got our little vent session in there. Thank you guys all for joining us. We'll calm it down a little bit. Be sure to follow along on all of our social media platforms for fun NBA content throughout the week, getting deeper and deeper into these playoffs. It's a lot of fun, and we're just enjoying being here with you guys. So we want to thank you guys all for listening. Be sure to catch us next time.